Testing, testing, testing. Can everyone hear me? Caw-caw. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the May monthly meeting. It's May, right? I wanted to thank Luminate for sponsoring this month, and David is going to come up and talk about Luminate. HNTB, thank you for hosting, and Clement Solomon with GDOT is here to talk about advanced air mobility, and thank you for being here. Ken, there's a little bit of like a reverb, is that okay? No. Do you want me to just yell? Just yell? Well, online might not be able to hear. I'll talk lower. Yeah, you guys good? Clement, sorry, it's going to get a little annoying for you. Okay, so Matt's going to come up here and talk about a couple of reminders. And so, Troy, you're after Matt.
I'll do my best. Yeah, that is going to be hard. So we were just, but there are some QR codes scrolling through. That is hard. But those are for our board of director nominations and award nominations. There are already several of you who have signed up. Thank you. I am going to go very slow so I can pay attention. How about this? They're up. You should use them. They're wonderful. There's one right there. It's an award nomination QR. And I would encourage everyone in this room to go ahead and just start putting in your projects. It is very simple. It takes like all of 3 to 5 minutes to do it. We just want to know what your project is, big or small, $100 or multi-billion dollars. Not all of us can afford an interchange project, but many of us can afford a server upgrade or a really cool new performance analytics approach, whatever that may be, right? So please, please, please put those in. It's already fantastic to see several of our local agencies have put in already. So keep doing that. On the board of director nominations, those will be up. We already have 7 folks who have put their names in. But that honestly means that they could just be shoo-ins because we have that many people, that many board of directors that are up for nomination in an election this year. So give them a run for their money. Don't let, let's see, Mary, you're up, right? Don't let Mary just get it. Make her earn it. So again, you'll see the QR code scrolling through. All you have to do is put your name down, and that's it. It takes about 30 seconds. If you're feeling particularly mischievous, nominate a friend or a colleague who is not here. We would love to call them and force them to be on the board with us. So with that, Troy, I think you are up next.
Thanks, Matt.
I want to try it. Hey, everybody. You're going to see Must Ministry. So in the June meeting at Maggiano's, we're going to be doing a food drive. So I'm going to be collecting all the food and hopefully delivering it over to Must Ministry. They're a big homeless shelter food pantry in Cobb County. They serve 10 counties. This is awful. Yes. They serve 10 counties. They last year they collected 2.3 million pounds of food and distributed that out. They house, I volunteered at their community center where they house about 120 people. I served food to them and everything like that, and done multiple food drives at a senior center. So in the summer with kids out of school, this is the biggest need they have, is to feed the kids because they don't have the school food. So anything you guys can give, it'll be great. Try to make it a competition between your different offices, anything like that. If you guys can't make the June meeting, please reach out to me, and I can come by your office and pick up the food if you guys need to do that. Also, there's going to be a link sent out, and there's a Amazon wish list for Must, so you can order straight from Amazon and it'll get shipped straight to them, so you guys don't have to worry about bringing it in or anything like that. They also do shelter, food, clothing, and job training if you guys want to do a financial commitment as well. On top of that, there is a training on July 29th And this is going to be with GDOT and AECOM and 360, talking about the essentials of working in the GDOT ITS network. So it's learning from GDOT and AECOM about how the network is designed and how to configure and troubleshoot ITS units out in the field. And so it's going to be interactive, and we're going to have 40 people. So if that fills up quickly, we're going to try to look at a larger location or do it virtually. That's it.
Next, I want to bring up the August Braves game. There are 2 sponsorship opportunities still available, $1,000 each. It comes with 1 ticket, and it's the Hank Aaron Terrace level. George is organizing that effort, so just reach out to the board or George for sponsorships. David, you're up for Illuminate. Godspeed.
I'm going to take the mad approach, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody, I'm David Swales with Illuminate Transportation Technologies. Appreciate the opportunity to be the meeting sponsor today. We do a lot of work with ITS Georgia, really ITS America all over the country. I'll spend just a couple minutes and go over just kind of a brief explanation of sort of who we are and what we do. I think a lot of you people in this room know who we are and what we do, but hopefully some new people might get something out of it. Switch slides. Oh, it's me. That's right, the clicker. Okay. So Illuminate Transportation Technologies was formed in 2020. We're basically a conglomeration of a bunch of mergers and acquisitions that have kind of grown our program across the United States. We originally started off with 3 companies: Carlson Construction Services, WL Contractors, which was located in Denver, Colorado, and Wilburn Engineering. And since then, we've made 6 other acquisitions in the last 6 years. The company's really focused primarily on the transportation space and sort of delivering innovative ITS solutions with ITS, tolling, and really almost any kind of logistics. We actually do a lot of work with port authorities now as well. And we just recently acquired a company called GTSS out of Columbia, South Carolina, and we're actually able to offer sort of IoT integrated services as well. It's really nice to have them on board, kind of expanding our service lines. We're located in about 11 states across the United States today. We service contracts in 15 states outside of the United States, including now Hawaii. And I'm in the process of setting up offices in all of those states that are marked in yellow right now. We recently just won a contract in the Bay Area in California, so we're setting up an office in Pleasanton. Similarly, won something in Tampa, Florida, working on that, and then also Omaha, Nebraska. We kind of are divided up into like sort of 4 distinct regions, and we sort of treat them like individual businesses. So we have our southern region, which is obviously where we're at now, and sort of covers Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Florida, and just a brief description of sort of like the forces and the employee size that we have in each sort of regional office. Western, Idaho, Colorado, Eastern region covers basically like the mid-Atlantic states. And then we have 2 offices in Texas that we support as well. This is kind of what we sort of call the pillars of Illuminate. These are the 8 services that we provide within the company. You know, we are kind of a full service integrator. We have a small professional services division, but it's mainly to support a lot of the consultants that are in this room. We don't go after prime contracts in the consulting world, but we do offer that capability to sort of help us support our design build efforts, tolling efforts, BP projects, whatever we're engaged with. I'd say our main focus is ITS, traffic signals, lighting, and we probably have about 55% of our annual revenue is comprised of maintenance service agreements. So we do a lot of full service maintenance. And we can cover from the field aspect side, some of the back office on the IT side, but again, typically in those kind of contracts, we partner up with consultants like you in this room to sort of support contracts like that. And we currently right now have ITS maintenance contracts in Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Idaho, Colorado, Texas, and we had contracts in Iowa and a couple other states as well. And again, that's probably the main support of our business. kind of a quick couple of descriptions of some of the maintenance services that we provide. Our Georgia contract is probably our most premier contract. It's a very holistic sort of like maintenance service that we provide from the layer 3 switch all the way out to the field. It is, I guess, in some ways a pay for data kind of contract. So basically we're liable for everything from the layer 3 switch out to respond and fix and maintain within a lot of times. And then North Carolina has a kind of similar contract. It's a little bit lighter and less intensive than Georgia. And then Virginia and Tennessee also has variations of similar contracts like that as well. We're seeing a lot of states adopt those kind of pay-for-performance style contracts. A lot in the tolling world too. They're all sort of reverting back to that, where they just worry about making sure that everything's operating and they're collecting revenue, and we're taking care of all the field service side. Another offering that we have that we've recently developed in-house is we have our own asset management platform. It's a pretty robust system. We use it here with GDOT. We're using a variation with a couple of municipalities, Virginia. We utilize it a little bit in Tennessee, pretty widely in Colorado. And then there's a couple of private companies that are using our system as well. It's a pretty full-scale system that has a lot of automation involving the ticketing, diagnostics of the devices that are out in the field. And we're constantly kind of updating it. It does have some pretty unique capabilities with the dashboarding efforts. One of the things that we really sort of like kind of tout about this system is it was designed by maintenance service professionals. So, we kind of started dialing it in and making it was easier for us to be able to do the work, be able to maintain the system remotely as well, and not deploy, try and limit the amount of technicians that we're deploying out on the side of the interstate. So yeah, very, very interesting system that we have built up there. And that's it. These are our contacts. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I appreciate the time.
Okay. I would like to introduce our speaker. Dr. Clement Solomon serves as the Division Director at Georgia Department of Transportation, where he leads the Intermodal Office of Aviation, Rail, Transit, MARTA Safety Oversight, and Waterways. At GDOT, Dr. Solomon is responsible for setting policies and administering all major statewide intermodal programs. Prior to GDOT, he oversaw a Boeing-built PRT system in Morgantown, West Virginia, and has had a diverse career in manufacturing, transportation, environmental, and sustainability. He holds a graduate degree in mechanical engineering, civil engineering, and a PhD in resource management and sustainable development. That's very impressive. I'd like to welcome Dr. Clement Solomon.
Thank you. Would you like to hear two of me or just one of me? Let's try the mic. I do hear it. I can speak softly. I always get the privilege of presenting before lunch. This is a unique one for me. After lunch seems a little drowsy for me and good food. But I wanted to chat with you this afternoon on a very interesting topic that means different things to different people. Advanced air mobility with VTOLs, CTOLs, STOLs, drones, and more technologies to come. Let me start with what advanced air mobility means. Again, it's different things. Let's try and set it down here, see if it picks up. Is that good? Okay. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, advanced air mobility means different things to different people. In the context of how advanced air mobility is being discussed today is primarily technology focused. What I want to share with you is a transportation systems thinking that I will run through this presentation and not so much on the technology end. AAM, UAS, UAM, you've got all those acronyms out there. But if you look at advanced air mobility, it is a pathway to a modal choice. So a VTOL, a drone, or any other one of those technologies that may come in the future should fit into the thinking of transportation choice. So primarily a mode that can be connected to your existing transportation system. That's one way to demystify this as well, because every time we push up the hill, there's something else that stops us. So AAM should be in the grand context of fit within your larger transportation system. So the effort that we're making in Georgia, and a lot more to learn for us, is to look at VTOLs, drones, and all of those technologies that operate within that 5,000 and less altitude as the advanced air mobility portfolio. So AAM, in this case, I just wanted to show you an ecosystem. Again, this is a little bit of a shift from a technology-focused thinking to look at it as an ecosystem. When you look at this graphic, what do you see? It's much larger than your VTOLs being able to take off and land. You have operators, you have maintenance providers, vertiport developers, utilities, communication network, and so on and so, this is just within the airport context. And within that boundary, think about all that exists outside the system. So my recommendation here is to look at advanced air mobility more as an ecosystem that can fit into the grander context of you'll hear me repeat that, transportation system. So why AAM? It was originally sold to us as air taxis, but let me demystify that part as well. It is not your air Uber that is, or your Uber Black that you can run with $70 from your home to the airport. It has a vast array of opportunities and applications that fit into this modal choice. Think of an air ambulance. If you want to fly someone from 2 hours away, how does road transport and air transport fit into this in terms of time of travel? Think about farmers markets, pop-up farmers markets, fire, public service activities. So again, expand your thinking in terms of not just the technology and what the technology can do to you, but take it as a holistic modal choice and all the different applications that flow with it. So what is a eVTOL? It is primarily an electrically operated aircraft. This is not rocket science. Sorry, I missed this part. It does have multiple electric propulsion motors placed across the aircraft. And it can operate in a conventional mode, a short takeoff and landing mode, or direct vertical takeoff and landing. The advantage with the electrically powered system is that it has lower operating costs and much reduced than your conventional aircraft or your helicopters. Again, I did mention this to you. Look at the graphic to the right. It is much beyond your Uber Black. Cargo, logistics, emergency response, medical transport, and all sorts of public service activities. You could do fire, you could do emergency response in terms of accidents. And those of you that travel 75, 85 know what happens to those interstates from time to time. And so those are some of the applications, but that's just what has been identified to this point. When you look at the eVTOL industry in Georgia, that's where it's currently started. We have Archer. How many of you have heard of Archer? Okay. Well, a lot of you haven't. Archer is just down the road from here in Covington, Georgia. They have a 350,000 square foot space that they're building these aircraft. It is one of the few facilities in the country that manufactures VTOLs. There's Joby in Ohio and Beta in Vermont. So we are also looking at aircraft infrastructure. A lot of these need the charging infrastructure. We have 5 airports that have been outfitted with the charging infrastructure: PDK, Augusta, Macon, Valdosta, and Waycross. So moving from eVTOLs or VTOLs to what I would call the UAS world, or the drone world, which I think is also and needs to be part of that AAM Advanced Air Mobility portfolio. These technologies operate at a much lower altitude, anywhere from 300 to 400, and this technology is evolving as well. I know we hear about this in kind of the warfare setting, but this thing is changing in terms of what it can do to our everyday life. How many of you have again heard of Wing that is operating here in state here, right outside Atlanta? I heard one of the directors from Wing talk to me about, she was in a panel with me and woke up one morning and had her allergies, and she could not leave the house without her allergy medicine. And all she had to do was open up the app, buy the allergy medicine from Walmart, and the drone delivered it right to her front door. So these are some advantages. I mean, anywhere from chicken wings to whatever else that you want to get. Drones are being used for a lot of those purposes. The combination of these things are going to greatly enhance our quality of life as we move into these technologies and with greater adoption. As far as GDOT is concerned, we're heavily focused on the application of drones into our internal activities. We don't think we can do it all, but we're looking at all the way from planning to post-commissioning and emergency response. We also think this is a very interesting way to protect people and property. A perfect example that many of you are more familiar than I am is when you do surveys on roadways and other places. You put your assets, people on the roadways. They have to cross the street, and we all know of the issues that are associated with such activities. A drone is a very safe way of doing your surveying. There are many other applications, and it also improves your efficiency and reduces costs. So I have a video here to wake me up and wake you all up. So this is a video of Archer that I wanted to play for you all.
The best way to predict the future is to build it here in America. Every year, billions of people from LA to London to Lagos waste hours stuck in traffic. And that's why I founded Archer, to give people their time back. Meet Midnight, built around one of the world's most advanced electric powertrains. Midnight takes off vertically like a helicopter, then it tilts its propellers forward to fly on a wing like an airplane at up to 150 miles per hour. It's whisper quiet when flying overhead, all electric and designed to move 4 passengers across the world's most congested cities. With the US government making this a strategic priority and over $3 billion in funding to date, we're now gearing up for launch. We've opened our high-volume factory in Covington, Georgia. We're conducting test flights from California to Abu Dhabi, feeding real-world data into the final stages of our FAA certification program. And now, with President Trump's executive order, the White House has a mandate to ensure American dominance in flying taxis. And Archer plays global offense with a multi-billion-dollar order book and partnerships with many of the world's top airlines. In LA, Archer is the official air taxi of the 2028 Olympic Games. And Anduril selected Archer as its exclusive partner to bring vertical lift to the front lines with a hybrid electric version of Midnight for America and our allies. We're building the future. Watch the skies. We're just getting started.
others. So that is a good video of a VTOL provider, eVTOL provider here in this state. But there are many other eVTOL providers across the country. The ones that come to mind are called Beta, Joby associated with Delta, and there are more emerging out of this entire, what I would call the AAM world. Now let's just switch over to the regulatory framework. The first part that I wanted to talk about is the federal role, and states don't replace airspace management, aircraft certification, and operational rules. So that primarily falls on FAA. They also set the direction and strategy for AAM in the country. As far as state goes, we believe we're more on the front end in infrastructure planning and coordinating with airports and communities. We also see a great opportunity for general aviation airports to get really involved in this. Just a quick question here for the group. How many general aviation airports do you think Georgia has? 102. So a lot of airports spread across the states, and they are great places for opportunities to be built in the AAM front. So I'll just go through the national strategy and the plan really quick and wrap it up. I'm more interested in this dialogue. I would like to hear from you, learn from you, and answer any questions. So there is a national AAM strategy that was just published not too long ago, the latter part of the year. This was primarily focused on 7 different areas. As far as a state agency and a Department of Transportation, we think there are 3 key areas that we could play a role in. The first part would be the advanced infrastructure, just being on the front end of the planning process. Community engagement and planning is, again, a very important part. There are pieces that the local governments and other agencies can play, but the state being involved in planning and engagement is very important. And then also the whole aviation economy that I mentioned earlier in terms of the ecosystem thinking and how that can play into furthering this industry. The second part that USDOT put out was called LIFT. The first 2 years is looking at leveraging existing programs. The next 4 to 8 years, you look at initiating engagement with partners and building those coalitions that can further the advanced air mobility system. And then forging new policy, which I think is very important, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as to what the state is looking at. And then, next about 8 to 10 years, you look at transforming the aviation ecosystem as a whole. So alignment with the national strategy is very key for GDOT. We don't want to be pulling in a different direction than where FAA or the USDOT is going. So we believe that our role is on 3 fronts: planning, coordination, and infrastructure. Planning and policy development will be on us just like we manage the traditional aviation program. Infrastructure, system readiness. A perfect example would be the electrical infrastructure. Not many airports are programmed and have the capacity and the capability to provide the electrical, meet the electrical needs of the charging system. To give you an example, a charging unit for a VTOL would be something similar to what a McDonald's consumes. If you look at 4 charging stations, you're talking about a Publix, so just a frame of reference for you. We also are very interested in developing statewide and regional connectivity. The first part that is we're looking at, we've done some ConOps on that, is intrastate. So how do you do travel within the state, even to the 13 county ATL region? If you were to take that, how does intrastate travel work? And then of course, these technologies need no boundaries or don't know boundaries. So we're looking at integrating with other states and looking at options as to how we can build that infrastructure. We also have to provide guidance to airports and communities. And as always, we're looking for pilot programs like the EIPP, some of you might have heard of that, and other demonstrations. So the first legislation for the state of Georgia is the House Bill 156. This bill gave us the opportunity to incorporate vertiports and VTOL infrastructure into Georgia aviation law. GDOT was given the authority to plan and oversee vertiport development across the state, and certain tourism development funds are also to be used for the infrastructure. Why it matters? Again, if we don't plan well, we're not on the front end of planning, we will end up with a whole bunch of different pieces that we will have to quilt together. So just a little bit of what we've been doing. We started, AAM has been on our radar for the last 4 or 5 years. We started a study in 2022 or 2021 to just understand the national landscape of AAM. How does AAM fit in Georgia? We looked at, did a complete inventory of the heliports in Georgia and looked at their applicability for vertiports. We also looked at vertiports at 10 airports, developed a community guidebook and a blueprint and a plan of action as to what we think. This was primarily a log and tag hunter-gatherer exercise that we embarked on. We learned a lot, and now we're in phase 2. So this will be the implementation planning, primarily looking at hotspots, what are the infrastructure needs, airport readiness, can we preserve land, what are the cost considerations, ConOps, planning tools and templates. I'll give you an example in terms of ConOps. We looked at the Masters tournament. Those 2 airports in Augusta are like parking lots. Are there better ways to manage this? There are 3 or 4 different ConOps. A lot of this information is on our website that you all can access. The last part is the air corridor study. So this is the first of the kind that we launched in the country, partnership between GDOT and North Carolina DOT, where we have kicked it off and we're working through the first phase of our study, primarily looking at logistics, freight demand, what are the infrastructure needs. We've also invited Greenville to participate, Spartanburg, Greenville to participate with us. Our goal is not to just keep this to Georgia, but to expand this regionally and how we can participate with other states and bring their expertise in terms of building the logistics network and the distribution hubs that can use this. This would primarily be for, not for heavy cargo, but low volume, high value targets. So if you're looking at chips, you're looking at just-in-time technology, things like that, that this will be primarily of interest to us. This is a 3-phase project, but we are already finding some very interesting things as to what we can be looking at between that Atlanta-Savannah corridor. Also, for those aviation folks, the term corridor is not a preferred term. In this case, we're just looking at an area that we can work to move these different products and meet the demands of those people along that sector. Lastly, looking ahead, we are working on the AAM planning and infrastructure readiness component. This is going to be a big focus of what we do. We also want to work with those early adopters. There are airports in and around the the ATL region that are very interested in urban air mobility. We want to expand our partnerships and demonstration opportunities. Primarily, my advice to the team is to take a big tent approach. We do not want to limit anybody. We want to take a big tent where we can partner with others as well as learn from others. Coordinate with regional partners across the state, Southeast, and across the country. I'm part of a national multi-state advanced air mobility collaborative, and GDOT will be part of a 15-state collaborative where we'll be looking at promoting these technologies and looking at applications that can be demonstrated, tested in different states based on their priorities. And the last but not least, we will be looking at funding and implementation priorities. What's interesting is a lot of the projects and the programs that are out there do not have funding associated with it. So it's great to have a badge of honor, but what do you do next? So that's sort of where we are and where GDOT stands in terms of AAM and where we're moving forward. And that concludes my presentation. I'm more interested in this part of the conversation where if you have questions, happy to answer.
So when it comes to the stuff like rain and stuff, I guess what would be the case for these flying taxis with that? Would they still be able to run in that, or would it be just kind of like how it is kind of with airplanes now, or I guess a little more, or what's the difference between, I guess, when it comes to this and airplanes when in the rain?
Weather is going to be a challenge. At least in the initial parts, as far as the aircraft manufacturers go, they do not want to fly. And this is also the zone where the turbulence is the highest, you know, you're 5,000 feet and under. So at this point, it's a challenge, but the technology itself has much different type of an innovation than your typical chopper.
Is there a use case that you guys brainstormed that you don't currently have the infrastructure or funding or whatever it is for it, but that you're really excited about?
I think I've done this way. I keep hearing myself. I can speak if y'all can hear me. The public service component and air ambulance, we're working with a group in Pennsylvania. Their primary, the focus there is to take Narcan to people that have it, that need it immediately, and it's a time-sensitive delivery. So they are the medical, the organs piece is the area that is really gaining a lot of interest. Beta, which is a VTOL manufacturer, they're from Vermont. They've built a network from Vermont all the way to Arkansas and down to Florida because they, their owner has, you know, some connection to this whole organ transplant. Although she was not in that business, but she is. That's her dedication, or that's her interest. So organ transport, you know, medical supplies. I heard someone say, I could be in the operating room doing an organ transplant and the organ can be transported. It can be en route to a medical facility. So that seems to gain a lot of interest because there's also a lot of money and funding that can go behind it.
Just go ahead and talk.
It's a really interesting presentation. I have a background in planning, so I find a lot of the ITS topics Thank you. I want to go back to one of the slides you mentioned, potentially better or larger urban connectivity to the urban core with people transitioning to the emergency responsiveness. I think is very good. Play a lot of value too within the short term immediate routes. When we talk about like decentralization potentially, or how do you think in the future the people move or people movement with these machines will like impact the urban sprawl potentially or development patterns?
I think I wrote a paper a long time ago, but I'm crazy. But the mobility districts, you know, we have tried to connect everything via interstate thinking. But I think you can build these mobility districts, those little communities that don't always need to be connected with a large road network and whatever else. So I think this opens a new dimension in terms of not having to be stuck in traffic as the crow flies. And if this really is the innovation of the future, those kinds of things can work well. I mean, you all have seen the Jetsons video. You know, that was not, I didn't think of that. Somebody thought of that then, right? And the first of those automated technologies, I personally happened to work with that technology built by Boeing, and it was a driverless technology built in the 70s and with 0 fatalities. So I think we need to reframe this thinking of modal choice and how we connect communities and open to those kinds of areas as well.
You mentioned about going state to state and some of the flights. Are the air traffic controllers going to know about these? Is there a way they're communicating to air traffic controllers to let them know they're in the area?
Yes, this will be part of this is not going to have anything separate than the current system, so it will be integrated in the national airspace system.
How are you doing, Clement? Just more comments on the question at the end. I find it interesting in the video that you mentioned that the administration is heavily pushing America First or being in the forefront of development of the AAMs. And yet the Build America 2050 budget that came out through the House T&I committee, and that included AAM funding. I'm hoping, I'm imagining as well that the future iterations that come out through the House and over the Senate will potentially have that funding. So I just wanted to share that in case anybody wasn't aware. The multimodal office of U.S. DOT published their National Freight Strategic Plan last Monday. It doesn't specifically talk about AAM, but there is an aviation chapter there, a component, and one of their goals is innovative technology, which I think AAM could fall in there, so potentially grant opportunities down the road. Just share.
Yeah, there is an aviation caucus. I think both the chair and the ranking member, I've heard them speak at the national aviation conferences, and they finished the FAA reauthorization before this happened. And I'm hoping the same too. It is not specifically called out, but those two folks and most of the staffers that wrote the FAA reauthorization bill are now on the Surface Transportation Bill, America's 250 Act. And I did a quick search too. I didn't see it, but I think FAA is also trying to figure this out, right? We're all trying to feel the elephant. I don't pretend to know everything here. I'm just sharing with you what I know thus far. But I think as we go into this movement, it is much bigger than us in the sense that you've got big airlines associated with these AAM emerging technologies. You have big automobiles, Stellantis, and all these different folks involved in this. So there's a lot of push behind this, but ultimately there has to be some congressional push both at the House, you're right, at the House level and the Senate level. I know the Senator Cruz is heavy into this because Texas got a big project. But there's an emerging AAM caucus evolving on the House side, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Stellantis. We have a member of Ford here sitting up in front, so I know they're probably interested as well. And then your Jetson comment is funny because I think the timeline right now, Jordan's about 3 years old. That city is the 2060s kind of thing. So we're working our way there, I guess.
That was intentional too. You know, it was a rat race, and you know who gets first to do what. You know, we were being methodical. I won't name the state, but there was one state that went and put a lot of money into AAM, and not knowing where this industry was going. And please don't quote me on this, but it turned out to be an AAM museum for all the money that you put into it. So we have been intentional and methodical, learning from others, and seeing what the industry is, what is the trend, where is the industry evolving, and having Archer in our backyard is a blessing. I mean, I'll tell you, not many states can talk about that. So we're waiting for Archer to get into the LA Olympics. That's what, June of 2028? And I visited their facility. They've got some things going on. They're very unique in how they're building. As a mechanical engineer, I used to see plants laid out. This is a very fluid layout. So they're trying something new. We're hoping that, you know, all of these aircrafts, you know, VTOLs, CTOLs, STOLs, they all succeed, because I think that would really take the aviation industry into another level.
Has Delta or Joby approached to the partner?
Yeah.
They have?
Yeah, well, they're our partners too.
I think it's interesting that the air mobility seems to be something that after regulation and safety is considered, the world is the oyster, essentially. So what is GDOT focused on as far as getting the other modes of transportation? Because if I can fly from here to Charlotte and then I have no way to get out of that vertiport to another place, then it's not going to solve the problem. The infrastructure that needs to be created, whether it's rail, whether it's subway, whether it's hang gliders, I don't care, but how is GDOT participating in kind of aligning all the different modes of transportation?
We're just starting. That's definitely one of the biggest things I really want to focus on. You know, the great the great concept of first mile, last mile is actually planning that was done right. Why would you leave the first mile and the last mile? So we're flipping that thinking to say, let all your trips be linked. There shouldn't be unlinked trips. Origin to destination. Think about linked trips versus unlinked. The modes don't matter, but let your trips be linked. So hopefully this will enable that part, as well as be on the front end of this. But you're right, because we always leave grandma with her 5 Kroger bags at the end of the street, and we tell her, you know, this is as far as the car will go, and you know, the bus will go, and walk the last mile. So that is the part that, and this might help meet that first mile, last mile gap too.
Yeah, to follow up on that question, do you see most of the usage being freight-based or people-based, at least at first? And then like possibly 20 years down the line, where do you see that going?
I think it'll start with freight, because as you all know, who wants to put their hand up to be the first one on that? Karina? I think that's what they're testing right now. It'll be freight. So there are 2 pieces to this too. Freight, piloted, and then supervisory control. The phase 2 will be supervisory control in a central control room. And then you start people moving in and doing that. But in some parts of the world, China, there are some places you could go, the Asian countries, you can actually, they are moving, but in a very selected corridor. But freight here, knowing our safety standards and what we want to do, I believe it'll be freight, unless you got some volunteers or daredevils that want to get in the in the VTOL and do that.
I know you mentioned some airlines like Delta and United want to operate these planes. Have any like rideshare services like Uber and Lyft reached out?
I don't know for sure, but I know when this whole concept started way back, Uber and Archer were talking. But it's just a matter of time, you know, for this to be embedded in your app, Uber app, or Lyft app, or whatever else. It's like how the example I use is Waymo. When it first came here in Atlanta, although a couple of weekends ago were not very nice for Waymo, but cul-de-sacs and flooding. But we'll leave that aside. Those things happen with innovation, right? But I think these will all. That is our thinking too. How do you take a holistic approach to transportation? Not this being an arm of something, right? But can this be integrated into that holistic transportation systems of systems thinking? And this only is a modal choice, so you're already demystified this and moving it. So yes, it can be a ride share even, right? I mean, you're just choosing it to, you're choosing air over land. I don't know for certain to answer your question, but the Air Uber conversation came that way. I honestly don't know, because the weather is going to be a challenge. They agree. They accept that Achilles, if you were to say that. But these systems also, because of the small propulsion motors that they have, there's a lot more resilience and factor of safety built into it in terms of a chopper versus this. So yet to be seen. Come again, please?
The wind flows coming from a drone. I know it has to be a certain amount for a smaller drone.
Yeah. I mean, it may not be the same challenges as drones, but it does have the weather challenges. What's interesting too is for the AAM industry, the VTOLs and the technologies that we just spoke about, that needs a whole different level of weather knowledge, intelligence, sharing, because right now I can't just pass you off the Georgia border and say, hey, you're in North Carolina, good luck, right? So there's a lot of weather integration that has to be done. Communication integration has to be done. And also the airspace management in terms of how this is going to be operating. This has no boundaries. I think that's we got to start it in small steps and then work its way through.
I probably have a dumb question, but are you guys going to team with MARTA or CERTA and do the beach pass with this?
We can. I've been talking to our transit guys and saying, why should we get new media, fair media? Why can't we just take the Peach Pass and just use that across the state for we oversee all of the buses. So, yeah.
The Florida one.
Yeah. And I've talked to MARTA as well. It's interesting you say that. If VTOLs can be in the, I like riding MARTA. Every ride has its own issues. I live in the Cumming area. I wouldn't mind not driving, and I had an affordable VTOL, but if I can fly into any of the terminal stations and connect, all of a sudden, to the question that you just mentioned, right? New mobility districts are formed, and you just connect the districts, decentralized mobility districts. So yes, and then your fare card, with the new MARTA card, you can do anything with that right now. You can.
These systems and the last mile connectivity with True North CA
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think this will all evolve, you know. A lot of smart people in this room. As we think through various components of integrating this into the holistic transportation infrastructure, we've all been fascinated by the bird that flies, but there's more to it. You know, electrical infrastructure, like I said, how many small communities even have a McDonald's? So think about that, right? For your charging infrastructure in your general aviation airport. So, you know, looking at the infrastructure needs, electrical infrastructure needs, then you have competing interests, because now you got the data centers, you know? So all of this has to be taken a macro approach all the way down to the micro level, but I think it can be done.
Final question. Can you tell us a little bit about the FAA's eVTOL integrated program, pilot program? I know y'all, I'm assuming you submitted an application. Unfortunately, you weren't selected. So I'm hoping there's a phase 2 where you will be.
We were approaching it on two fronts. So we submitted one with Archer, and then we also have joined the multi-state collaborative, which got funded. We were originally in that group. I won't get to all the details here, but we are going to be part of the multi-state collaborative, working with 15 other states on the EIPP project. So I'm in that process of finalizing the details with FAA. We'll work with anybody. I mean, I think this is a common problem, this is a national problem, this is a regional problem, or let's not call it a problem, innovation. And the more we learn and the more we share our experiences, the better we do in the long run.
We have time for one more question. Anyone else? Okay, everybody here. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Just a reminder again, registration for our June 24th meeting at Maggiano's and our July 29th training will open up after this meeting. But thank you for coming, and thank you Luminate and HNTB for hosting and Luminate for sponsoring. Bye everyone.
Thank you.